What's going on, YouTube? Your boy back here once again with another sport topic. We're going to still talk about the NBA because the NBA free agency is about to open up. It starts on Saturday. So I'm going to let y'all know some players and some teams to keep your eye on to see if these moves happen. Both Chris Paul and Blake Griffin have opted out of their contracts. No one's really surprised, especially with the Chris Paul, because Chris Paul's already got meetings set up with other teams. And then talks are starting to heat up with Paul George. And I think it's going to be official that Paul George will not be a Pacer by the time the season starts. I think he will be moved to another team. What team? I don't know yet. I'm going to inform y'all some information, and we'll see what's going to go down with that and some other moves to be talking about to keep your eyes on. But just let you know you heard it here first from your boy. So we're going to start off with Chris Paul. Both Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, like I said, have opted out of their contract. No one's really surprised. Chris Paul has already set up meetings with the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets. I don't think he's going to sign with either one of those teams. I think he's using both of those teams as leverage to make either the Clippers give him a max or just to heat up talks with other teams, because there are reports that his interest on both sides with him and the Spurs. That he has interest in the Spurs and the Spurs have interest in him, deep interest. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to remain a Clipper. I think he's still going to be a Clipper. Mostly because of LA, the city of LA. When he was in New Orleans, he just wanted to be in LA. That, and also the hire of Jerry West to be general manager / basketball consultant, because Doc Rivers still has his hands on the team. So I don't think Doc Rivers is actually giving up the general manager title. So, but I think he's going to. I think Jerry West is going to put together things to let Chris Paul know that he can put a championship team around him. Because he's had his hands in the Showtime Lakers, bringing Shaq and Kobe together, bringing Gasol to the Lakers, also helping Golden State get Clay and Draymond and KD and Steph. So he has his hands on all type of NBA championships. No matter where team he's touched, he gets them to championship level, if not championships. So I think that's going to be one of the main reasons why Chris ends up staying in LA. If I had to give it my opinion, I'm thinking it's 65% he stays in LA, 20% he goes to San Antonio if he goes somewhere else, because it is pop. They do have Kawhi, and like the Spurs are like the Patriots of basketball. And another 15% he goes to another team. I know there's rumblings of him going to Cleveland. I don't understand why Cleveland, because in order for that to happen, Cleveland had to give up Kyrie. And why would you give up Kyrie? Because I don't understand that for the I don't understand that for the Clipper side. I mean for the Cavs side. Because if I'm a Clipper, if I was under the Clippers organization, if you're gonna trade if you're gonna give me Kyrie for Paul, I'm doing that in a minute. Here, you can have Chris Paul. Take him. I'm gonna have this guy for small years. Chris Paul ain't got that many years left, and I just build around him. So I don't understand that from Cleveland side. Blake Griffin, talks to him going back to Oklahoma. Oklahoma City, him pairing up with Westbrook. I don't know. Miami's very interested in Blake Griffin. Him signing Whiteside. Then also talking about some signing trades. There's talking about of him signing and trading to signing with the Clippers again, re-up with the Clippers, because the Clippers can't offer him the max because they owe him his bird. They own his bird rights, so they can sign him the max and get him to a max contract, and then trade him in that max contract to Indiana to receive Paul George, because Paul George wants to be in LA, and then they're thinking that they can actually convince him to stay with the Clippers instead of going to the other team in LA, the Lakers. We're closer to winning because we have Chris Paul, we'll be able to bring in LeBron, and we can do some stuff. They just got Lonzo. They still in the youth movement. We in the build now. We in the win now. And you ain't got time to wait on the youth movement. That's going to be what they can sell him on, and you still in LA. So that could be something that goes on with that. That's why I said the Lakers, if I was the Lakers, I would not trade. I'll let him come to me. But the only team that's really in competition, if I was the Lakers and Paul George services, really is the Clippers. It's not really Cleveland. Even if Cleveland can get him, I think he'll stay in Cleveland and then leave. I think the Clippers would be the one that's most concerned, because either way it go, he'd still be in LA. And that might be a concern if I was the Lakers. But I wouldn't be too concerned, because I don't know if Indiana really would do that. But that's some stuff to watch out for. Now, with Paul George. There's also talks. Houston, like the Houston Rockets, are in a lot of talks. Houston Rockets are trying to make moves to get Paul George as well. There's talks of them putting together packages to trade to get Paul George, and they think they can convince Paul George to stay. And I don't see it. I mean, I think they could probably put stuff together to get Paul George, but I don't think Paul George will stay in Houston because I don't think they'll be any closer to Indiana, especially being in the West. Now, if they were in the East, it'd be a whole different ball, whole different story. But I don't think they're in the West. They're still not competing with Golden State, even with Paul George. And also, Houston's also talks of getting Gordon Hayward. I think that'd be a nice pickup for them. I don't think they're still doing anything, but I think they'll be in the right direction. Now, there's also talks that there was a 5-team trade on the line that was, at the end of the day, it was going to end up sending both Paul George and Melo to Cleveland. But the five, it was going to involve 5 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams. But it fell through because none of those 4 teams, because one team had to be Cleveland, of course. But the other 4 teams did not want to take on Kevin Love's contract. And I wonder what team it was that was what team was that they were trying to push Kevin Love on for it to be 5 teams. So we know if Paul George and Melo were going to Cleveland, so we know Cleveland is in it, Indiana's in it because they're giving up Paul George, and New York is in it because they're giving up Melo. So who's the other 2 teams? And I'm thinking these 2 teams are the teams that did not want to take on Kevin Love's contract. I'm thinking it had to be the 2 mystery teams that we don't know about. And since it wasn't a huge report on it, it was just small talks of it, we will never know who these other 2 teams are. And normally if it's more than 2 teams in a trade, nobody really wins. But I would actually like to see that because I would definitely want to see all those people on one team because I just think that'd just be hilarious and funny. And then when it's a huge trade like that with a whole bunch of teams involved, that's always crazy and interesting because a whole bunch of teams involved. So I always like to see stuff like that. So those are some of the moves to get. Watch out. Who knows, that 5-team trade might end up talking about it again. So if it ends up happening, you heard it here from your boy first. That 5 teams are in a trade. And also some other moves some other small moves and stuff like that. I know the Rockets, or there's concerns around the Rockets if they're gonna give up Patrick Beverley. Rockets, I wouldn't give up Patrick Beverley unless you like getting LeBron or somebody like that. Not because Patrick Beverley is that good, because Patrick Beverley is the glue. He's the glue of the Rockets. And I think if you give up him, I think your team is gonna fall apart because he's that glue. He's that glue piece. He's not talent-wise important, but as far as a player, he's like one of your most important players on the team because he's that glue foundational piece. And I wouldn't want to give him up unless you're definitely getting some type of superstar or making room to get a superstar, and you better be correct with that type of move. So I'll holler at your boy.